to a heated debate playing out on social media between CGTN's Liu Xin and Trish Regan of the Fox Business Network. It began when Regan said the U.S. had no choice but to wage a trade war against China. She accused the country of stealing American intellectual property, causing $600 billion of losses to the U.S. every year. Now, that number came from the National Bureau of Asian Research, an American nonprofit institution. Liu Xin noted the figure was yet to be verified independently and said Regan's accusation was based on emotions, not substance.
Even then, she misidentified this figure. The report actually says the total low-end value of the annual cost of IP theft to the U.S. economy may be as high as $600 billion US. Overall, is not referring to China, but the whole world combined. So, dear Trish, perhaps you need a better research team.
The Chinese are launching a full-scale information war against the United States of America, and their newest target, me. Yeah, me. For the record, any emotion you see is quite real. It's quite real, and it comes from substance. But hey, I guess to the Chinese state-run media, I get it. I'm just a girl, right? I'm just an American girl. So I clearly couldn't know what I'm talking about, right? Of course, I must be all emotion and no substance.
Well, Regan responded, calling for an honest debate. Liu Xin agreed to the challenge, but says she doesn't want to engage in mudslinging. They've now agreed that Liu Xin will appear on Trish Regan primetime on Fox Business at 2000 Wednesday U.S. Eastern Time. That's 800 Beijing time on Thursday or midnight GMT. So tune in for that.
Fresh evidence tonight that China still thinks it can play by its own set of rules. According to a newly released study in the journal Nature, scientists have discovered the source of a mysterious recent rise in a very dangerous ozone-destroying chemical. This chemical was supposed to have been phased out in 2010. But apparently China didn't get the memo. And I'm being nice, because the reality is China didn't care. The chemical has been traced to eastern China. The Chinese, they want to have their cake and they want to eat it too. They want to have developing nation status. You know, they're actually one of the biggest borrowers on the planet from the World Bank, while simultaneously trying to play the part of a grown-up on the world stage. Hey, China, it's time to join the big kids' table and play by the big kids' rules, right? You are the second largest economy in the world, and you're still growing. Back in 1980, we were 15 times the size of you, and now we're just 1.5 times as big. If this keeps up, you could actually overtake us. But I suspect before that happens, you're going to be forced to grow up. That's because all those loans, again, one of the top borrowers on the planet, all those loans from the World Bank, they're going to start drying up. Now, all you viewers should know, members of the Chinese Communist ruling party, they all seem to have rather sensitive egos. So sensitive that they've taken a real dislike to me. Someone who dares to tell it and them like it is. And this week, a state media news presenter named Liu Xin launched a personal attack on me. Watch.
She's so sure of U.S. victimhood, so indignant that her eyes practically spit fire. If you were an American who didn't know any better, you too might clench your fists and pound the wall.
Wow, my eyes? They spit fire? My fists? Oh dear. Not quite. But you know what? I'm going to take it as a compliment. She says I'm emotional. Yeah, I get a little emotional. I'm proud to show my emotion when I'm confronted with a reality that will be bad for Americans. But hey, the truth hurts, right? Watch how this woman, Ms. Xin, hates to hear the truth about how much the Chinese Communist Party steals.
One figure upon which she bases her argument is that alleged Chinese intellectual property theft deprives the American economy of $600 billion US annually. And how do you define theft? According to whom? So, dear Trish, perhaps you need a better research team.
Dear Liu Xin, my research team is the best in the business. And you want to know how I define theft? I define it like this. In 2018, a Chinese wind turbine manufacturer is found guilty of stealing trade secrets from a U.S. company, costing that U.S. company $800 million. Also last year, according to the DOJ, 2 Chinese nationals, they were accused of coordinating with Chinese state security officials in an extensive hacking campaign, allegedly infiltrating 45 U.S. companies and government agencies, as well as more firms in more than a dozen countries. The hackers stole information from companies in all kinds of industries, including banking and finance, telecommunications, biotechnology, automotive, and health. So, okay, yeah, Liu Xin. I'd call that stealing. What do you call it? Meanwhile, the Chinese Communist Party seems to be trying to send a message with this.
Can you negotiate with people who cross the line of decency? I don't think so. When they issue unreasonable demands, compounded by virtually pointing a gun at your head, in this case, of course, tariffs, even if you wanted to engage, you simply can't.
Yeah, you can. I mean, it's not that hard. Don't overcomplicate it. All the U.S. is asking for is free, fair trade. 0 tariffs on your goods, 0 tariffs on ours. And no more stealing our stuff, okay? Is that really that hard? Can you really not understand that, well, we don't begrudge your economy the opportunity to grow, and grow you have been doing. We're okay with it. As so long as it's happening amid an environment in which U.S. workers are not punished. So I'll tell you what, Liu Xin, you seem like a nice enough woman. And even if you are just reading state propaganda written for you off a teleprompter by a member of the Communist Party, I would like to invite you to have an honest, live debate with me. A real discussion. You name the time. You can name the place, someplace neutral outside of China or the U.S. And consider this an invitation, Ms. Xin. I very much look forward to your reply.
A recent commentary on Fox Business Network, which is part of the #1 news channel in America and the most influential cheerleader of White House policies, unsurprisingly embraced the U.S. government's economic war with China. But the harshly worded piece, which aired during prime time on May the 14th, also took matters one step further. Host Trish Regan branded the U.S. trade imbalance with China as a weapon which the U.S. must use against China. Beyond claiming that China continues to prosper at our expense, Regan blamed 3 times the Chinese for stealing billions from the Americans. According to her, we don't really have a choice but to wage this war. Words have consequences. Her economic warmongering reaches millions of Americans in their homes and possibly many others around the world. And given the close, almost symbiotic relationship that the Fox channel has with the current U.S. administration, it's fair to say she also speaks for Trump's America. She portrays America as the real victim here, implying that previous U.S. administrations were somehow suckered by the scheming Chinese. She's so sure of U.S. victimhood, so indignant, that her eyes practically spit fire. If you were an American who didn't know any better, you too might clench your fists and pound the wall. Yet, in carefully analyzing her words, it's all emotion and accusation, supported with a little substance. One figure upon which she bases her argument is that alleged Chinese intellectual property theft deprives the American economy of $600 billion annually. That number, also cited by other mainstream U.S. media like CNN, comes from a 2017 report of the Commission on the Theft of American IP, produced by the National Bureau of Asian Research, a non-profit U.S. organization. Those are only their estimates, yet to be verified independently. And how do you define theft? According to whom? Even then, she misidentified this figure. The report actually says the total low-end value of the annual cost of IP theft to the U.S. economy may be as high as $600 billion. Overall, it's not referring to China, but the whole world combined. So, dear Trish, perhaps you need a better research team. Watching her commentary, though, it makes me realize if the U.S. side approaches these trade talks with such bigotry and hostility, they'll lead nowhere. The kind of language being used against China has been derogatory, to say the least. War, weapons, stealing, even that our country is raping their economy. By the way, how do you rape an economy? This is not the language of a trade partner, but the insults you might hurl at an enemy. China has tried to hold its head high and refrain from such uncivil language, but it doesn't seem to make a difference. The US side did not hesitate to brandish the weapon and slap higher tariffs on China. Now, 1 year after the trade frictions first erupted, China itself is finally calling this a trade war. Can you negotiate with people who cross the line of decency? I don't think so. When they issue unreasonable demands, compounded by virtually pointing a gun at your head, in this case, of course, tariffs, even if you wanted to engage, you simply can't. The US now admits or even brags about this approach. On May the 19th, in an interview broadcast on Fox, yes, that same channel, President Trump said he told Chinese President Xi Jinping, don't expect a 50-50 deal. It has to be a deal in favor of America. Well, this is the 21st century. The days when you could arm twist a country to accept unequal treaties ended long ago. The Chinese people rejected such treaties back then and will do so today as well. For people like Trish Regan or anyone else who thinks that economics should be weaponized against China, they'll be disappointed. Two can play at that game. Nevertheless, China will remain the adult in the room. Unless the US side returns to civility and treats China as an equal, it's impossible to pursue productive trade talks.